Alright guys, here's your Chapter 4 Other Trig Graphs Quiz Review. Alright, so let's start out here with the easiest way to do this. This is the way I do this, okay? Because we know these three here, A, E, and C. We know they're either secant or cosecant, okay? So what I would do is I would draw in underneath the graphs, that's terrible, a sine or cosine curve depending on which graph it is. Alright, so just like this. And then let's put one here. Alright, now what I would do is I would identify the graph that I just drew in. So here it goes through 0, 0. So we know that the red graph I drew in is a sine graph. Here, if this was shifted up, it would start at 1, 0. So we know that what I drew in is a cosine graph. And then on letter C down here, it's the same thing. We know that this is a cosine graph. All right. So now we know that since the red I drew in is a sine graph here, we know that the black graph is a cosecant graph. Okay. For here, since it's cosine, we know it's a secant graph. And down here, we also know it is a secant graph because it is cosine. Okay. So now all we have to do is verify, is it secant minus 1? Is it just secant? Is it cosecant? Things like that. Well, if you notice, we only have one secant graph. So we know that number 3 has to be A. There's no way around it. Number 3 has to be A. So now we're done with A. Let's cross it out. So now we have secant minus 1 and just regular secant. So which one of these, C or E, is in standard position, so to speak? Well, since our cosine graph here started at 0, 1 like it should, we know C is in standard position, so C is just a regular secant graph. So C is number 4. Okay? And then for letter E, if you look, instead of starting at 0, 1, this starts at 0, 0, and it is a cosine curve. So we know that this one has been shifted down 1, so letter E has to be 1, or secant x minus 1. All right? Now let's look at these other three. We know they're either tangent or cotangent. All right? And we know that tangent equals sine over cosine. All right? Now, if you notice, f is defined at 0, whereas d is not defined at 0. So we need to figure out which graph, tangent or cotangent, is defined as 0. Easy way to do that, look at the sine and cosine curves. What is the sine at 0? Well, it's 0. What is the cosine at 0? Well, it's 1. 0 divided by 1 is 0. Is that allowable? Yes, it is. So we know that this graph is a tangent graph because at 0 it is defined. Okay? We know at 0 it is defined, so that means since this one is not defined at 0, we know this has to be the cotangent graph. Because remember, cotangent is cosine over sine. So to use our same example here, it would be 1 over 0, which is undefined. Okay, hopefully y'all can see that in the video. Now we got to look at this strange case here. Well, it appears that it has just been shifted up. I missed 1 unit. Okay, I was supposed to go through there. Okay, it looks like it was just shifted up 1 unit. So let's go down and look. Do we have any tangent graphs shifted up 1 unit? Well, yes, we do, right here. So we know that this has to be B. Okay, crossing out the ones we've used. So we know D is a cotangent graph, so come down here. 5 is D. And we know F is a tangent graph, so that means F is number 6. So the answers in order are E, B, A, C, D, and F. All right. So kind of a quick review here, but that's basically all you need to know for tomorrow's quiz. Like I said, for your secant and cosecant graphs, if you're unsure, draw in a sine or cosine curve underneath it. So that way you can be like, okay, this looks like a sine graph, so that means this has to be cosecant, okay, like I did here with the red. This looks like a sine graph, so we know that the black graph will have to be cosecant. Okay, I know this looks like a cosine graph, so I know that the black graph will have to be secant, and so forth. And determining tangent, if you don't remember that tangent is defined at 0, you can always do the little test here to figure out if cotangent or tangent is undefined or defined at 0. All right, pretty much it. A little over 5-minute video here. So watch this as many times as you need to, and be ready for the test tomorrow. Good luck.